issue been working, that the teams have been working.
Today, and we look for another opportunity. So at this point, we know that there are two opportunities coming up on Thursday and Friday, but it has yet to be seen whether or not the teams will take that opportunity. First must resolve the issue, get enough data in order to understand it, and then at that point, they can proceed with an opportunity. But just to make the audience aware of the opportunities that remain on Thursday, we have a launch opportunity at 7:26 p.m. Eastern Time. 7:26 p.m. Eastern Time, there's another launch opportunity for a 24-hour turnaround. And then on Friday, as you know, Jessica, we generally launch 20 or so minutes back each day for the rendezvous with the International Space Station. We have a launch opportunity on Friday as well at 7:03 p.m. Eastern Time. From here, as you heard mentioned by the commentators in Hawthorne, they will make their way down the launch tower into their vehicles, which are waiting them, along with the closeout crew, which will help them go back to astronaut crew quarters. For astronauts, though, Jessica, this is certainly something that is really part of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about it earlier, and flexibility is really key to everything that we do as astronauts. We know that the plan is always changing, and launch scrubs are definitely a reality that we have seen happen over and over again here in the Space Coast. Way back in the shuttle era, of course, happen frequently too, given maybe a technical issue, maybe a a violation of the range, as we talked about with a random boat being in the area. Maybe it was a weather violation, or even any of the contingency sites along the corridor as well. So lots of different reasons to support. It does, it just, we're ready for this. This is what we train for. We know that at the end of the day, we may be lifting off, we may not be. Definitely a bummer for everyone involved, but we will just, again, do as we're trained and get ready for that next opportunity. It reminds me a little bit of an interview that Anne gave fairly recently about the mission. She was talking about the extensive experience that her crew has in regard to aviation. We talked about that several times in this broadcast. They have 4 professional pilots, 2 military pilots, 2 commercial pilots. And one of the things that Anne often talks about is how important it is as an operator, as a test pilot, because your equipment will always fail in ways that you don't predict. And I think that's something that we saw here today. There were other issues, technical issues that worked and tracked for this mission, as there are all for every mission. We're always wondering what's going to happen with the weather here, which can be pretty interesting and unpredictable here on the Florida coast. But this was something I don't think that anyone was tracking at all. And Anne and I even spoke last night. We were just seeing everything go too smoothly. I think we mentioned that this morning as well, and maybe we shouldn't have said that out loud. Sure enough, there's always something that you don't expect. So I'm sure Anne's reminding her crew right now, hey, be humble. We know that today we weren't ready to launch, and the answer is that we will launch when we know we're ready and safe. And that's, of course, the only solution when you're launching humans into space.
And a hint that the crew is taking it well, as you said, that we just saw moments ago, Colonel Prescott appeared to use his tablet to take a selfie with the crew. So you feel like they're doing okay. Certainly understand what is happening right now. They were aware throughout the countdown that this could be a possibility, but they get yet another practice run getting out to the launch pad and getting into their seats and preparing to go.
That's right.
Coming up next is our crew egress. The crew has loosened up their seat belts.
For crew awareness, there will be some additional tank venting here as we get back down to nominal tank pressures.
Copy. all of that out of the way, and hopefully that will give them a chance tomorrow to really just be able to relax and appreciate it, and maybe just think a little bit more, philosophize a little bit more, be ready for that next attempt without all of those little annoying must-do task list type things. So try to put a positive light on it, think about how maybe for their psychological state, getting ready for the next opportunity, it would actually make things a little bit more relaxing and a little bit more routine. Like you said, they've for the next opportunity that they'll have, whether that's tomorrow or a subsequent day.
If you're just joining us, you're watching launch coverage of NASA and SpaceX's Crew 10 mission that was scrubbed today at 7:06 p.m. Eastern Time, T-minus 43 minutes. The scrub was called by NASA and SpaceX due to an issue with the hydraulic system that controls a clamp on for the rocket to the launch tower. And there you see Crew 10, crew from left to right, test off, the Polaris and the plane, Takuya, Noguchi, spending some time chatting and talking. Of course, you know they're disappointed that they didn't get to go today. The weather was perfect. It certainly did its part. I had just heard an update prior to the scrub being called, where the launch weather officer came over to that and said, "We're clear, blue, and 22." A phrase that means, you know, clear skies, blue skies, beautiful weather, and you can see for 22 miles. And you literally can. That is the visibility today. It was setting up to be a perfect, not only launch opportunity, but also a launch viewing opportunity. But as is often happens in the business, everything needs to be just right. And so the launch was scrubbed for today, and they will look for an opportunity in the future after they discuss the issue that they had with the hydraulics and the ground system. The rocket was good to go, the spacecraft was good to go, but something with the ground equipment and the hydraulic system is what's keeping us on the ground for today. As we look around, just having passed through sunset, I believe we have a sunset. There yet? No, we're close. Almost sunset as we orbit the launch tower there. In the foreground, a future Starship launch tower, which you can see there, marked by its chopstick arms at the bottom. In the background, you can see Launch Complex 39A in the tower, where the Falcon 9 rocket and spacecraft with our crew are still sitting inside, awaiting to be egressed from the capsule. And way off in the distance, the vehicle is sitting.
You know, it's good food for thought here as I contemplate what I would do in this situation and think about a potential future space flight. I think it's probably a good idea to have some contingency plans, personal ones, right, about what's going to be different and what you're going to do over those next 24 hours or however long it will be. I didn't actually speak to Anne about that. I wonder if she and her crew had anything in mind, you know, anything planned, because the way things usually work, if you have a plan, then you won't need to use it. But if you don't have a plan, then we may be in the case that we're in today. So I'll have to talk to her and find out if they had anything planned and what they decided to do to make use of that interim.
I could see some astronauts possibly thinking that might be bad luck if you make a plan for a scrub.
You never know. I mean, if you have a plan, then you won't have to use it.
There you go. It's good to plan. It's also good for the astronauts to have a little downtime as well to launch, and then the work that happens on the International Space Station, as I've heard it told, is very intensive.
Yeah, the training period, especially in the few months before launch, is pretty intense. There's a lot of international travel as well, so you're pretty much always jet lagged. And it's pretty intense. You know, I think for a lot of the training that we do as astronauts, we talked about for these space station missions, we're typically training 1.5 to 2 years in advance. In the beginning, it's usually not as engaging, not as time consuming, not as much travel, but really things get progressively busier, unfortunately, even though you'd personally want it the other way around. You know, if you think about it, everybody wants to have their training and their exposure as close to the flight as possible. So those final months do get quite busy. For Anne's crew, there was sort of an interesting lead up. You know, they had their very, very busy time period since, of course, originally they were supposed to launch in February, and they were really pretty exhausted. You know, they had a lot of travel, a lot of things going on, but then suddenly they had this delay and they were waiting, and then they had this kind of built-in rest period, kind of similar that we're talking about with a scrub, where I think it actually was good for their crew because they had enough downtime to really recover
I mean, we always, as astronauts, want to be launching a well-rested crew, a well-mentally prepared crew to get to the very busy lifestyle that we have on board the space station, and just all the psychology that's involved with leaving your family and friends back home too. So I think it was nice Anne's crew had that, and again, maybe they'll have that now with the scrub, a little bit of extra time together to kind of contemplate and prepare for their mission.
That delay that you mentioned from February to March, of course, brought